I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, in Alameda, California. And I have a guest from Alameda, California, who is going to do what I've always wanted to do at this show, and that is help me demystify atheism. I'd like to welcome to the show for the first time, a fellow Alamedan, Mr. Nathan. How are you, Nathan?
Well, thank you, Ralph. I'm doing well. How are you tonight?
Listen to those pipes, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to be out of a job. If it's a job, it means of me having fun and enjoying life. And as my audience knows, you may not, Nathan, I talk to some of the most interesting people in the world. I'm videos about a myriad of different things, and a lot of it is sports, writers, players, authors, but a lot of it is social justice. And I cite what is referred to by my friend Brother Scott as the unholy trinity, which is big business, government, and organized religion. And they are together, the three combined, to really make life difficult for folks here on Earth in a myriad of different ways. And I'm thinking about that list. There is no unholiness whatsoever about atheism, because if you're atheist, you don't have a business. You don't have a profit-free, a tax-exempt business where you can make as much bucks as you want, not pay income tax. And as far as I'm concerned, because I was raised as an atheist and for some time considered myself an agnostic, not to be closed off, but when it comes down to it, I'm pretty much of an atheist. And I came to it with good reason. I'm a thinking person. And Nathan and I have been on some of the Facebook pages together, and I find you to be incredibly articulate. So would you describe your definition of atheism and how you came to be one?
Of course. Thank you, Ralph. Well, let's start out with the word theist, because that is the derivative, which implies that someone believes in a God that actually involves themselves with their own lives. So, as opposed to a deist who believes in a higher power who hasn't exposed themselves to us on earth. So, as opposed to a theist, us atheists do not subscribe to any one theology. We do not believe. We are not convinced. There has not been the evidence for us to come across and study to actually convince us of any such supernatural being. And, when it comes to agnosticism, I think that word is used too often incorrectly, and because I would say that I'm an agnostic atheist. I am not 100% sure that there's not a God. I don't believe that anybody can be, the same way that I don't believe anyone can be 100% sure that there is a God. So I think that we're all agnostic to a point.
Right. Do fanatical believers deny that, or are they overcompensating, or is that part of their trip for them to bring others into the fold?
Well, I think there's a big mix there. You have people doing all of those things. I think and not only that, but there's a big misunderstanding. Let's face it, atheists today are the most mistrusted people in the world, or at least in this country. You will not find an atheist president. If you're a public atheist running for office, you're just simply not going to win because people don't trust you. And that's a disturbing thought, and it's becoming better this day and age, but we still have a long, long ways to go. But I do think that there is a big fear in the religious community, especially the organized religious community, of people turning away from church, and then, of course, they're losing money while that happens.
Okay, are they ever afraid of losing their tax exemption? And, it goes hand in hand. If people are afraid to declare themselves an atheist, they'll be, while running for office, they'll be afraid to come up against the wind and make a statement, because there is a city in Alaska that I don't remember the name of the city, but it just started taxing property taxes, business taxes, churches, mosques, synagogues. And they figured let them compete. If they don't have a tax status, they're competing with the astrologer. And if they're competing with the astrologer, then it's fair game, because I think it's all mythology, and let them earn the money instead of. I'm thinking back in New York. I think they own like 12% of New York. Catholic Church does. They used to own Yankee Stadium. They don't pay taxes. They don't pay property taxes. They're not putting into anything for the social welfare. So we, the people, whether we believe or not, and I don't care what people believe in. I just don't want to see them doing it at public expense. You want to go home and worship? That's cool. What do I care? I'm not saying believe what I believe.
Don't start coming into schools and preaching it.
Oh, that's another thing. I mean, in Texas, for instance, I have Facebook friends in Texas that fight the good fight every day about creationism and what they want to teach. It's crazy. This is America. We weren't founded by God. We were founded by slave owners.
Exactly. I mean, the name of the very first slave ship was the Good Ship Jesus.
Is that right? I didn't know.
That is correct.
I do know.
And it amazes me how many Christian African Americans exist, because when you look at history, Christianity was used, the Bible was used to enforce slavery upon them. And so I just, I feel I'm not in that position where I can really, say one way or another, but it, to me, seems kind of shocking that something that was used to do such horrible things is so accepted by those same people nowadays.
Well, you know why, Nathan? I think that's because you haven't accepted Jesus as your personal Savior.
Exactly. I have to say just a little bit of backstory. I was brought up in a Baptist church, the same Baptist church for 18 years. I was a youth leader. I actually went to training events to become a youth leader. I played guitar in the praise and worship band that played every Sunday, and I was very, very involved in the church. And I even remember, I believe it was my freshman year in my science class, and I had an argument with my science teacher when she started teaching evolution. And I was very ardent about not wanting to be taught this, and I've since tried to find this teacher.
No, she was teaching creationism.
No. At this point, I was still a Christian. I was still a Christian.
Oh, I get it.
Teaching evolution. That's
okay.
what I had such a big problem with. And so I wish I could find this teacher and go to her and apologize for the mistakes of the past and my ignorance back then. And
so what led you to, was there a non-burning bush that you discovered? Somewhere was there? I mean,
it was. I think it was part growing up, part educating myself, and part speaking with other people who have had different experiences. And when I was a Christian, quote unquote, I'm sure Christians will say that I never was a true Christian, but at the time I believed I was. I remember I was baptized and I had tears running down my face, and it was a very emotional event for me. But I've come to realize that was simply a part of my psyche. Our brains are very complicated. And, that's why it's almost like everybody has a different version of their God, because it has to coincide with what they believe. And so when it comes down to personal experiences of Christ, of what a lot of Christians will call, I believe it's actually a psychological phenomenon that is misinterpreted as a supernatural event. And so that's what I came to understand after a little while. When I was growing up, I was completely unable to study evolution or anything that disagreed with Christianity. But once I became an adult, I think it was about when I was 17, actually, is when I became an atheist. Because I finally understood that, wait a minute, this just does not make sense. I mean, even in Sunday school, when I was a child, I was that troublesome child constantly asking questions like, well, if this is the case, then why is that? And I was always a challenge to the Sunday school teachers. So I think it was in me from the very beginning.
Did you ever get logic from them in a moment of weakness for them? Did they ever go, wow, or
no.
agreement?
Oh, no. It's always, one of those answers such as God works in mysterious ways, or we're not intelligent enough to understand God's ways, or, we'll find out when we die, or, it's always one of those cop-out questions, because rationality is an enemy of faith. You can't.
Well, God never gives you more than you can handle. That's my favorite one.
Right, there you go. There's that one too.
Right. Some guy that had to make 2 trips to the ambulance to get him, and you got a team of priests around him, and he's still playing. Still going along. It's craziness. It's craziness.
Yeah.
How did your family react?
Oh, how did my family react? Well.
Yeah. Wow.
My mother still cries once in a while because she was brought up the same way, very, very Christian household, and she really never questioned any of it. And my father was the same way, and I think, to question it would actually threaten his beliefs, and so it angers him to even discuss it. So it's one of those topics that's somewhat off limits. I can try my best in small increments to try to educate them about evolution and not anything difficult, but
what's the
small
purpose?
little things, like learning about the recurrent laryngeal nerve, where it breaks off of the vagus nerve in the throat, and only really needs to go a few inches, but instead wraps around the vessels of the heart and comes back up, and that goes back to the fish that didn't have necks. So, we can see through evolution that this is a simple thing, and, so I bring up things along those lines, but when it comes to true conversations regarding the philosophy of religion and whether it's true or not, it's really off topic. They've accepted that I am an atheist, but it took years for that to actually happen. I think they were in denial, mainly my mother, of course.
Right. On some level, are they proud that you're a thinker? Isn't that what parents want for their kids, to go out there and at least make up their own minds and have, question authority, question
the craziness about you, because they got to see the world's not working as it is, and there is no God that would have invented first a crutch and then an iron lung for a kid after he gave him polio. I mean, this is crazy. We're being fucked with on a level that, just from a purely financial level, if these churches, mosques, and synagogue pay taxes, our social problems would go away. Every curious child could be educated. Every hungry person could be fed. Everybody could be sheltered. Just on the road.
I mean, look at these preachers like Joel Osteen, who are worth, I believe, over $30 million or so. And it's like, wait a minute, Jesus, if you read the Bible, was a champion for the poor, not the rich. He would not have endorsed mega churches. And so that's why, it's so funny for me to look at the Christians, the so-called Christians nowadays in these mega churches asking for money, going back to Jimmy Swaggart and prior to that, and don't get me started on Vinny having a heart attack and going to the hospital instead of praying himself and healing himself. Because that was, poor Vinny, and I never would wish anything upon someone that horrible, but when it comes down to brass tacks, people will go to the doctor instead of praying. They might pray as well, but they're sure as hell going to go to the doctor.
Mother Teresa raised billions of dollars. There's never a hospital.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Mother Teresa raised millions of dollars in her life for hospitals in India, and there were never hospitals in India. All there were a series of hospice programs all around where people would come and die. Nobody got better in any of these places. And to prove it, when it came time for her to get medicine, she was treated at Sinai's Hospital in Los Angeles or something like that. I mean, and she's a saint, and she was hawking a bunch of the church's money for crazy.
Right. She's even quoted plenty of times saying that, it's God's gift for people to suffer. What sort of horrible being would say something like that?
Well, and interpret the Bible? It's so loosely written that you would worship somebody that says something like that. And my father laid it out clearly to me. Whether there's a God or not, you don't necessarily have to worship someone who would, in his case, take his mother in the concentration camp, my grandmother, who I never got to see, that kind of thing. No God's going to do that. That's just bogus. And the stories are weird. I used to do a comedy act, if you will, and I would ask people, I said, is the stories in the Old Testament not preposterous enough that you have to come out with a New Testament? It's like sweeps week, for crying out loud. We got crazy stories in the Old
books of the Mormon faith.
Oh,
you have to get even crazier as you go up in dogma.
Yes, yes. The Mormons were founded 3 years after the Wells Fargo Bank. So if you got to give them credit, they're wonderful recruiters, and they have a way about them that they do have kind hearts. And I'm talking about the people. People of all religions have kind hearts. Christians with a small c have kind hearts. Jews that are atheistic Jews have kind hearts. It's only when it becomes a business. It's only the hierarchy I'm talking about when I'm talking about the unholy trinity. It's not the postman delivering mail. It's the governor. It's the big people making decisions to bomb other countries that I'm talking about. It's not the guy going to church on Sunday, and it's the priest who has no qualms whatsoever about taking the altar boy to lunch.
Right, exactly.
It's
but there are also benign entities here for the people that keep these people in power. That don't do these atrocities, but have so much faith in the Bible and in their religion that they keep it alive. And I'm not saying that we should get rid of all religion. I mean, if all religions could coexist, that would be wonderful. But let's face it, religion is not like other topics. I've sat around plenty of Freudians and Jungians having arguments. It's never come to blows, let alone chopping off heads or crusades. Okay, so there's something special about religion,
it. I always said that the national pastime of religion is war. I mean, they just get off on
or either that or indoctrination.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we could all get along if we solve things economically, and if everybody had a nice job and enough to eat, we wouldn't have to take other people's borders. We wouldn't have to depend on oil. We could do things that, and by the way, we're taking less oil out of the Midwest, Middle East. We are now drilling in the Arctic. So both parties are a sham. It's just good guy, bad guy. They play at every election. I think the only thing that can save us is Bernie Sanders. That's my guess. I'm thinking about this for 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, just breaking up the dichotomy of the Republican and Democratic Party, that would be a start. If we had a wider array of people with different views and not so, PAC funded. Because that's where you really get into the corruption, is the lobbyists and the super PACs. If you got rid of them, we'd have a lot of better elections and a lot of better turnouts. I'm just so happy that in Oregon they've passed the opt-out registration for voting now. Why couldn't we have thought of that earlier? It's like it shouldn't be an opt-in program. It should be an opt-out program to vote, so that everybody, try to get as many people as possible to vote. Have it open during the weekend so that blue-collar workers can get out there and vote. But the conservative party
let people be responsible to make that asinine decision not to vote. Have them look at it on a piece of paper and maybe give a thought to what it took years ago to become a citizen of a country like this that allows the freedom to vote. But I understand why they're disenfranchised. You got the Koch brothers.
Yeah, it's easy to take that for granted. It really is, unfortunately. But I think we have a new generation coming out that are so pissed at the baby boomers, and my generation really, that haven't done enough and that has been so apathetic to the problems at hand and the gridlock in Congress that they're going to vote these people out, because let's face it, Congress really needs a complete overhaul. And then we might actually be able to get something done through Washington.
All right. Hey, listen, you're a pleasure. Before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about the city that we both live in, Alameda, California. Did you grow up here in the city?
I sure did. I was actually even born at Alameda Hospital. Born and raised.
I'll be darned. And where did you go to school? Did you go to Haight School or Wood School?
I actually went to Lum School for elementary and Wood School for middle school and Alameda High.
Yeah, that's where my kid went. That's where my kid went to middle school. All right. We're two people of two different generations. What do you like about living in Alameda, and what do you dislike about living in Alameda? It's your home. What would you like to see changed, and what are you most happy with it has changed or has remained the same?
Okay. Well, let's start out. One of the best things about Alameda, I think, is the climate. The climate of the Bay Area is pretty unique, and we really are, I hate to use the word blessed, but it's nomenclature now. We really are. I travel to Reno quite often to visit my mother, and when I come back here, it's just such a relief because with the humidity, it's just so wonderful.
Right.
And of course, the politics. I personally have a cannabis card. I'm not afraid I'm going to get arrested smoking a joint in my own house. I can walk down to the corner store.
I too imbibe, and I am now, after all these many years, legal with mixed emotions that we're supporting a system that locks up in the past people for smoking a joint, and now that they see there's big tax dollars, they acquiesce in terms of medical marijuana, which has a lot of problems within the system itself of medical marijuana. It's abused for a number of reasons. And it locks out the true grower and dealer in a way. But it lowers the prices all around. The street prices are lower, and I have a card and permission to smoke, and I feel good about smoking. I feel that the new mayor has made a tremendous difference, at least psychologically, that with the hope of change for the future. I think we were ripped off by the old administration, but that's neither here nor there. I want to pay homage to the great library we have. The Alameda Library downtown is absolutely fantastic.
It is.
State of
the
art. A great place with wonderful librarians that work it. And all the libraries. There's one out at Lydecker out on Bay Farm Island that's terrific. There's one on 8th Street on the other side of town. It's a town where there's two separate sections, two downtowns, Webster Street and Park Street, that are totally different and unique in their own way, and a lot of great restaurants, and it's fun. It has a great sports history. As you say, the weather is perfect, much more so than in most parts of the Bay Area, if not all. We either have a fall day or spring day every day. It's never really winter, and it's never really summer, right? And
exactly.
And some great bookstores. Books Incorporated, run by my friend Nick, who and a myriad of folks that he has working for them who get to browse with me and listen to my crap all day and smile as I walk by. And there's another bookstore across the street, the Rocket Reuse, run by my friend Eric. And that has a myriad of great stuff, used books, CDs. My favorite pizza place in Alameda is, I can't pronounce, Cirio's, the one on Park. Are you with me, Nathan?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well that's it. What are your
I don't travel down Park that often. There's just so much traffic. That's the one thing I would change, the traffic on Park.
Okay. What part of Alameda did you grow up in, and where do you hang now?
Actually Central, somewhat near Park Street, but I tend to go off the beaten track. I love going to the library, of course. One of my favorite places to shop is the Corner Produce on Oak and Central. They always have great product. I love going there. Everybody's great. South Shore is okay. It's just awfully crowded.
Right.
It would be nice if they brought in a few more places down at Marina Village. I think that place could be fixed up a little bit more. But other than that, it is a great place to live. You can pretty much walk or bike anywhere you need to. So, and the climate's great, and we have a beach. So, what else can we need other than maybe our own cannabis club?
Maybe a tennis wall downtown on this side. Great tennis. Tropical weather like in Florida, but that always remains enticing on some level as well. Don't think I could enjoy the vapidness of the place at times, but I have wonderful friends down there, and that's where I may end up someday. Who knows? Hey, Nathan, you've been tremendous. Thank you for coming on. You really livened up my day. Are you still there? Oh, I lost you. Don't know how I did it, but I did. Got a good interview. I'm going to end the interview and tell Nathan that I want you to come back again, and we'll end it properly sometime and pursue some of the topics that we started. Keep your dreams wet, keep your summer dry, keep your children and your grandchildren away from the face. You got to remember it's an economic war, and we as a country are not taking care of veterans of an economic threat. We're not taking care of veterans from previous wars. So try to avoid military recruiting offices. And by all means, while you're at it, keep your kids off the laps of clerics that wear dresses. They are not all bad people by any means. But there are enough of them that you got to go, you don't want to leave your kid alone. All right, there you go. Stay frolic. Does that explain it, everybody? Thanks for listening. It's been a great show as far as I'm concerned. And I will say over and out.